The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood is a dystopian novel about an oppressive and totalitarian society called Gilead. Gilead is ruled by a religious extremist regime that took over the United States and stripped women of all of their rights. Their children are taken away from them and they cannot own property or be in control of their own finances. They also cannot read or vote or write. This is all in an effort to eliminate any kind of individuality and independence for women. Gilead's creation was in large part due to plummeting birth rates. Handmaids are assigned to the leaders of Gilead, known as commanders, and bear children for the commanders' so-called barren wives. Offred, the main character, serves Commander Waterford and his wife, Serena Joy. The women in the household include Serena Joy, Offred, and two other women, Rita and Cora, known as Marthas, who take care of household duties. They are all confined to their individual spaces within the household, the sitting room, the bedroom, and the kitchen. They are never allowed in the commander's office. The women's roles in the household are set to meet the needs of Commander Waterford. In other words, they are oppressed within the actual home. As we go through the different spaces, rooms like Serena Joy's parlor may seem like havens of femininity, but in general, the household is a place where the women must obey the man as their highest priority. As Offred says, quote, "Household, that is what we are. The commander is the head of the household. The house is what he holds. To have and to hold, till death do us part." Page 81. Beginning with Serena Joy's parlor, Offred gives a detailed description on page 79. Several items stand out in this description. Serena Joy's chair and footstool is the spot in which she does most of her sitting during the day, representing one of the only spaces that is actually her own. The presence of the commander's leather chair represents how men are always taking up space in women's lives and spaces. Although this is where Serena comes to relax and usually sits, the commander's presence always lingers. Another gendered item are the two paintings of women on either side of the fireplace. Offred describes them as wearing dark dresses, backs and mouths stiff, breasts constricted, faces pinched, caps starched, skin grayish-white, guarding the room with their narrow eyes. This represents how the women in Gilead are supposed to act and how they are seen, restricted. Offred also says, quote, "Serena Joy acquired them after it became obvious to her that she'd have to redirect her energies into something more convincingly domestic." Lastly, one of the most important things Offred notices is the smell of the room. It smells like lemon oil, heavy cloth, fading daffodils, leftover cooking from the kitchen, and Serena Joy's perfume, Lily of the Valley. According to Teleflora.com, daffodils, which are present in the sitting room, represent rebirth and new beginnings. They are also a lucky emblem of future prosperity, possibly hinting to a child being born to the family and raised in the Waterford home. The perfume is interesting because Offred describes it as a luxury, and that Serena must have gotten it from a private source. This is another example of how women are constricted. Interestingly, Offred also says the perfume smells like, quote, "the innocence of female flesh not yet given over to hairiness and blood," end quote, page 80. Now we go to Offred's bedroom. In a house where nothing else really belongs to her, her room is her personal space. On page 50 she says, quote, "I called it mine. My room, then. There has to be some space, finally, that I claim as mine, even in this time." End quote. A few things stand out in her room as gendered objects. First and foremost, the door to the room does not lock. In fact, it doesn't even shut properly, showing that she truly has no privacy. Secondly, the window in her room doesn't open all the way, which can symbolize a sense of restricted freedom, both in the physical space and in Gileadian society. Under the window, there is a window seat with a cushion that says Faith. She explains, quote, "It's the only thing they've given me to read. If I were caught doing it, would it count? I didn't put the cushion there myself." Page 57. This is interesting because she ties it to the fact that women are banned from reading anything at all. Another gendered object in her room is the oval rug on her floor, which has braided rags. This is gendered because of how Offred describes it. Quote, "This is the kind of touch they like. Folk art. Archaic. Made by women, in their spare time, from things that have no further use. A return to traditional values." Page 7. Finally, we read about a picture framed with no glass, a print of flowers, blue irises in watercolor on the wall above the chair. Quote, "Flowers are still allowed. Does each of us have the same print, the same chair, the same white curtains, I wonder? Government issue? Think of it as being in the army," said Aunt Lydia. Page 7. This shows us that the women, specifically the handmaids, have no individuality whatsoever. Another thing Offred says about this picture frame and the window in her room is, quote, "I know why there is no glass in front of the watercolor picture of the blue irises, and why the window only opens partly, and why the glass in it is shatterproof. It isn't running away they're afraid of. We wouldn't get far. It's those other escapes, the ones you can open in yourself, given a cutting edge." Page 8. She knows there is truly no escape from Gilead other than hurting oneself, committing suicide. This is what the handmaids are subjected to. Briefly, let's look to Offred's bathroom, which is just next to her bedroom. There are a couple things in here that are important to note as we talk about gendered spaces and gendered objects. First, again, the door has no lock, showing the complete lack of privacy in the home. Also, over the sink, the mirror that used to be there has been taken out and replaced by an oblong of tin. Mirrors represent identity. They reflect who we are, but these women are not allowed to see that. Again, the erasure of individuality and sense of oneself. Moving on, one of the most important gendered spaces in the house is Commander Waterford's office. One can think of it almost as a man cave. No one is allowed inside unless invited, and the door must always be closed. Let's examine some of the objects within the office. There is a desk with CompuTalk on it, which is a way of electronic communication in Gilead. This shows that the commander has access to speaking to others and being in the know all the time, which the women are not. On his desk, he has paper and a pen holder set, something that the women could never have. He has the ability to read and write, thinking freely for himself and communicating that to others. The office also includes a small sofa and 2 chairs, contrasting with the single chair that Offred has in her room. Commander Waterford has a more comfortable space in which he can choose where to sit. This is something the handmaids don't have. Choice. He also has a television set where he can watch the news in Gilead while he is still in his office, whereas the handmaids cannot within their own bedrooms. The most important section of his office, however, are the bookcases. Offred explains, quote, "All around the walls there are bookcases. They are filled with books. Books and books and books, right out in plain view. No locks, no boxes. No wonder we can't come in here. It's an oasis of the forbidden. I try not to stare." Page 137. Commander Waterford has access to knowledge, expanding what he knows. Not only that, but he has the ability to think and read, which is something the women cannot do by law. Handmaids are strictly in Gilead for the purpose of conceiving children, not to use their brains. The office is representative of everything the handmaids and women in general cannot be, individual thinkers with privacy and comfort. In conclusion, not only are women, especially handmaids, oppressed outside of the home, but inside as well. We are so used to our homes and rooms being safe havens where we can avoid the danger and discomfort of the outside world, but the women of Gilead feel the opposite. It's a place where their privacy is stripped of them and their individualism is replaced with obscurity. Serena Joy's parlor may seem like an elegant space, but it can be just as oppressive as Offred's bedroom. One's environment matters, and Gilead has stripped women of the right to any kind of safe and non-sexist environment.